According to everything we know, movement requires propulsion. Engines, thrust, dot, force. That's not controversial. That's basic engineering. So, when something moves without any visible propulsion, we're supposed to assume that's normal? High-speed objects leave evidence. Heat, light, shock waves, distortion. You can't move fast through a medium without interacting with it. But in many reported cases, there's nothing. No visible trail, no disturbance, which suggests something unusual. Either there is no interaction, or there is complete control over it. No movement, that's the model. That's what works. So when we observe objects that appear to move without any of this, that's where things get interesting. At high energy levels, air stops behaving like a simple gas. It becomes structured, almost like a controllable medium. And if you can shape that, you're not moving through air anymore. You're moving inside something you control. So maybe the assumption is wrong. Maybe these objects are not pushing through the air. Maybe they're interacting with it, modifying it, using it as part of the system. There are already concepts that point in this direction. Ionized air, plasma, electromagnetic fields. When air becomes ionized, it behaves differently. It becomes responsive, controllable. Not in a mechanical way, but in a field-based way. So instead of thrust, you get interaction. Engines are loud because they waste energy. Heat, friction, vibration, a perfectly efficient system would be almost silent, which is exactly what many of these objects are described as. But there's a bigger issue: inertia. If something accelerates instantly, the forces involved should be extreme. Enough to damage structure, enough to destroy anything inside it. And yet, in many cases, that doesn't seem to happen. No delay, no build-up, just movement. Unless those forces are not acting the way we expect. What if they're not overcoming inertia, but changing how inertia behaves? In that scenario, the object itself changes meaning. It's no longer a vehicle. It's a system. No engines, no moving parts. The entire structure working as one unit, a continuous surface, possibly designed to interact with fields across every point, which would explain something else. Why these objects are often described as smooth, simple, almost minimal. We are not completely unfamiliar with these ideas. We experiment with plasma. We study electromagnetic propulsion. We explore field effects, but only at very small scales. Very limited control. Nothing close to what would be required to explain this kind of movement, which leaves us in an uncomfortable position. Either we're very early in understanding this, or we're missing something fundamental. Because at a certain point, you have to consider something else. What if movement is not happening through space, but with space not pushing forward, but shifting the reference itself? We tend to assume that our current models are complete, that propulsion is required, that motion follows fixed rules. But what if those assumptions are just habits? Because if even a small part of these observations is accurate, then we're not looking at advanced aircraft. We're looking at a different approach to interacting with reality. And that raises a more interesting question. Not how these objects move, but why our models struggle to explain them. Because sometimes, the anomaly is not the object. It's the gap between what we observe and what we think is possible.